Hey guys, Bassplay 12, or Mitch as you guys know me. I'm on my way to worship team practice, and today's video is going to be the 5 things that we as musicians expect or want from the worship leaders. Now, I want to preface this video by saying this is not going to be my personal rant video. It's not going to be, hey, I'm so upset, this is what I want. This is all done in love. This is all done in wisdom. This is all done in, at least right now, just affirming what you guys might be already doing. For those of you that might be worship leaders and you're already doing these things, it's a yeah, amen, keep going. So I don't want this to be any type of personal attack. I don't want this to be a complaint video. This is just a, hey, I've been doing worship for a long time, not to brag. This is just to let you know, over all the years that I've been doing worship, there's just so many things that I've noticed and, just collected all these notes in my head of what really works and what, kind of makes the people on the worship team, just ooh. And so I don't want this to be any type of, I don't want you guys freaking out. It's just something that I've noticed over the years. What really sticks out with worship leaders, like, oh man, that was really good. And then there's other, obviously, learning points where, at any type of leadership, there's going to be issues where you're like, oh, I didn't even notice that. Let me improve it. Let me fix it. And, that goes for those of us that are on the worship team also. I'm sure leaders could say, hey, this is what we want from the folks in the band. And so I know it goes both ways. And so I'm always open to, hey, what can I do to be better? So hopefully that's the way for those of you that might be watching this, take that. So number one, the word expectation is just, in certain cases, I almost cringe and go, ooh, that sounds like this is what I expect. So I don't know if there's a better word to use for expectation, but this is what I'm hoping for in a worship leader. Expectation might be a little bit too over the top, like, this is my list of demands. But anyway, let's go to number one. My hope for a worship leader would be that they would be really good at communication. For those of us that do worship, communication's so huge because, so much of what we do, we need to understand so much. So what I mean by communication is, let us know the song list. Let us know what key it's going to be in. Let us know what time to be there for practice. Let us know what the order of the songs are going to be. Let us know just all of the important things that, for those of you that are worship leaders, if there's going to be some things that are going to make you, higher up on the bar of, I just don't like this, make sure you communicate that to the band. That way, if there's things we need to fix, we need to fix it. If you want us there at 7 and we show up at 7:10, let us know. Say, you know what, I really want you guys here at 7. Because if you don't communicate, things will fall by the wayside, and we're not going to know everything that we need to know of what bugs you, of what you really want. And obviously, if some things need to slide, then they need to slide. If you don't care that we show up at 7:10, then that's a battle you don't, wage. But communication is just huge because, in the past, we have been practicing songs all week, and then we find out on Sunday we're not going to be doing that song. And so if you don't communicate that to us, it makes us feel like, wow, we spent all this time practicing a song that we're not actually going to do. And it just makes the team feel like, well, man, I spent all that time practicing on something maybe you could have let us know we weren't going to do. Just little things like that, where you just want your team to feel valued. And when you communicate, we feel valued. Like if you say, hey, heads up guys, we're not going to actually do this song, scratch that, don't take the time to practice it. We feel like, wow, thanks for communicating with us. We feel valued. We feel like our time is valued. And so that's just one example of where you can communicate to us, and the ride is a lot smoother than if you don't. Number 2, I've been under many worship leaders, and the thing I really appreciate about worship leaders is when they can find the balance between perfection and just flat out, I don't care what you guys do. And here's what I mean. This was really early on when I was on the bass, or I was playing bass for worship when I was 16. And I remember some worship leaders where they would be like, okay guys, we're gonna go over this again for the 20th time because things are not perfect. I mean, I literally remember us going through a song just dozens of times where you're almost rolling your eyes like, oh, are you kidding me? And that's where I felt like it was just way too perfection. Like, guys, we're gonna practice this right, even for that one note that's not being played right. And I get that. I mean, if it's a note that's gonna wreck the song, but it was something small. I remember it being small, like, okay, whoever it is, we're gonna figure this out. It was just to the point where it felt monotonous, like, you're almost crossing the line of, hey, we're gonna get to be so panicked and so stressed out about being perfect, we're not gonna be able to worship the Lord. And so worship leaders just have to remember, you can't stress out your team to the point where they're not able to worship the Lord. If they're so stressed out, you're going to end up having team members that are just going to say, forget this. I don't need stress on a Sunday morning. I want to do this for fun. And, they're going to lose the fun of it if, everything is just so perfect and stressed out. And then on the flip side, you don't want to make it to be where, your team is playing 50 incorrect notes. You guys are going to the chorus when it should have gone to the verse 2. You just don't want chaos. You just don't want, people not knowing what to do. So the balance would be, get to the point where if your team is not 100% perfect, you're able to go, okay, guys, let's move on. Let's go to another song, rather than, we're going to practice song number 1 until it's perfect. And then what you end up doing is you don't end up getting, song 2, 3, and 4 good because you're spending so much time on one thing. So again, the trick is find a balance between perfection and chaos. And a lot of the worship leaders that I've had or I've played under, super job at being able to do that. They find that balance, and it's really good when you're not stressed out on a Sunday morning. Okay, number 3 is be able to have fun with your team. And what I mean by that is remember that they're volunteers, or at least I think they're volunteers. Do they have to be there? No, they're choosing to be there. They're being available to God. They're saying, God, you've given me a talent and I'm choosing to be available. I want to play. And what worship leaders just need to remember, that's really bright. Worship leaders need to remember the band is there to have fun, to worship the Lord. So you just have to gauge if your team looks like they're having fun. You need to just understand, like what we just talked about before, about finding perfection and the balance between perfection and chaos. Look at the faces of your team members. Do they look stressed out? Do they look panicked? Do they look like they're more worried about hitting that perfect note rather than being there to worship the Lord? And so that's just my encouragement to worship leaders is, be able to read your team. I've played under, again, so many wonderful worship leaders where, when we first get there, their first question is, hey, how you doing? How things going? They're finding out what's going on a personal level. They're not all about just business. Like, okay, everybody, let's go ahead and start. And so I appreciate having fun and worshiping the Lord at the same time. So number 4 would be lead by example. And what I mean by that is, with any leadership type role in the church, we're just looking for the worship leader to be genuine, transparent, honest, be grounded in prayer and, in the Spirit, in the Word. And so, when we're looking for conversation, when we're looking for a reaction from the worship leader, we're just looking for them to react in love, looking for them to react in forgiveness. So, if somebody hits a wrong note, if somebody's late, we're just looking them to react in love and not to be, overly critical and, to the point again where it's not fun. And definitely, as the worship team, we're not going to, like I teach, so my students sometimes push the boundaries of things. But, as the worship team, we're not looking to push boundaries. We're just needing that guidance. We're needing that leadership. So number 4 would just be for the worship leader to lead by example. So, if the worship leader expects us to know the songs on Sunday, we expect the worship leader to do the same. So we're just looking for the worship leader to not ask us to do things as a worship team that the worship leader is not willing to do themselves. So, we're going to be ready, know our songs, be prayed up, and, we expect the same thing from the leader. And I would say number 5 would just to be real, to be human. A lot of times worship leaders might feel like they need to project like perfection, and it's actually the opposite. The worship band appreciates a worship leader that's just willing to say, whoops, my bad, I totally messed up. And I totally appreciate that about worship leaders, that they can just admit when something didn't go right, something just, they dropped the ball on something, because we're just looking for that humanness in the worship leader, like you would a teacher. Because when I teach, I have to let my students know I'm going to screw up all the time. And I just need your grace. I just need you to understand that, you plan things out and sometimes they don't always go the way that you meant it to. And it's just a genuineness and just being real, just saying, what, messed up, guys. And that's the part that I can appreciate the most, is just, hey, they're just human just like me. We screw up, they screw up, we learn from it and then we move on. They're not putting out this perfectionist type attitude. And it's just real refreshing to see when a worship leader goes, whoops, I went to the wrong note, my bad. And then we learn from it and we move on. And it shows me that, they can understand when we do the same thing. If we mess up, hey, whoops, and let's fix it and then move on. So I just appreciate that part of a worship leader. So today, guys, it's the takeaway is, if you can pick one of these things and just, focus it, pray on it, and, we never can improve on a million things at once. I have to look at one thing and go, okay, I'm going to concentrate on this. When I feel like I got it, then I concentrate on something else. So, worship leaders, don't take a look at this list and go, I got to be perfect on this by next week. It's just a starting point. It's just a checkoff list for all of us. I have to remind myself that I have to be this way in other aspects. But, as a band player, I have to just do my part to support the worship leader also. So today's video, I just need you guys to realize it goes both ways. There's things that they expect of us, worship leaders expect of the band, and then there's things that the band expects of the worship leader, and they go hand in hand. It can't go one way or the other. So hopefully you appreciated this video, and it's just one of those encouraging, uplifting things for worship leaders. Band members, pray for your worship leaders, because the enemy is trying to attack them and the whole worship team. So they need to be constantly uplifted in prayer. And then, ultimately God gets all the glory, because we're just his hands and feet, and we help to glorify him. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in tomorrow's base cover.